her hands, legs, and forehead by her side.
I'm dying. I'm dying.
Told me if I die, it's better than to go through what I was going through.
By definition, human trafficking is the modern term for forcing and transporting people into slavery. Every day, thousands of men, women, and children are stolen from their homes and forced under the control of traffickers. Some people may even be under the impression they are working one job, yet end up being demanded to work a different job against their will after they have given up all their rights. According to the International Labor Organization, an estimated 40.3 million people are trafficked today, and the number continues to rise daily. The system in which people are trafficked is ruthless, brutal, and unforgiving. It is virtually impossible to escape the control of traffickers. Many people in the system may even end up dying before they can escape or be rescued due to the drugs forced upon them, abuse from their traffickers, or suicide. People can be trafficked for many different forms of exploitation, such as forced prostitution, forced labor, forced begging, forced criminality, domestic servitude, forced marriage, and forced organ removal. Trafficking is indeed a global issue and is in no way isolated to one country. The limitless amount of places in which human trafficking takes place can be seen within the thousands of sources of profit of the business. The International Labor Organization estimates that forced labor and human trafficking is a $150 billion industry worldwide. The map shows where human trafficking occurs the most and least throughout the world, proving it does occur everywhere and involve millions of people from each populated continent. This map once again stresses the idea, the global roots of human trafficking. All of the countries are seemingly interconnected and have relationships with each other to allow trafficking to take place and thrive. The top 5 worst countries in which human trafficking occurs are Venezuela, Belarus, Iran, China, and Russia. The impacts of human trafficking are extremely widespread and go as far as affecting individuals, communities, governments, and even the economy. The most small-scale, yet horrific and unimaginable effects come from the social impacts of human trafficking. The social impacts are so appalling and atrocious, the point where trafficked persons are often isolated from their social circles, leaving individuals unable to engage socially or reach out for help. Many people who have experienced human trafficking face such trauma that the impacts stay with them even if they are able to escape the system, which can be seen in the several studies indicating high levels of post-traumatic stress disorder in formerly trafficked persons. Take, for example, the many young children that have fallen victim to human trafficking. They are deprived of their childhood and dehumanized at a very young age.
আমাকে আমরা ঘুমায় পড়ি আসে তিনের পর কি জন সব করে তারপরে গাড়িতে গেলে মানুষের গায়ে টাচ করে এই যে আমরা খেলতে চাইতাম ভালো লাগতো আমরা কোনো জায়গায় আপনারা কোনো জায়গায় বাইরে একটা ব্যবস্থা করে দিলে তা থাকা পারবো না
Due to the devastating impacts and the quickly growing issue, many leaders throughout the world, especially in the United States, are taking a stand.
For the first time at Hillary's direction, our annual trafficking report now includes the United States. And that's why earlier this year I directed my administration to increase our efforts. And today I can announce a series of additional steps that we're going to take. The change we seek will not come easy, but we can draw strength from the movements of the past.
One of the most evident ways human trafficking has impacted politics is through the way it influences human rights laws. This is apparent by the way the government treats human rights primarily in a judicial framework, proposing supranational courts to monitor and enforce them. At the same time, people feel as though the government is not putting forth as much as an effort to enforce laws against human trafficking as they should be. It may seem as though the government may be using their power to control human rights laws, but the laws are not as specific and enforced as they may seem according to the author Michael Goodhart, when he explains the conceptual articulation between democracy and empowerment, or human rights, remains vague. While the lack of political aid contributes to the widespread growth of the problem, the economics behind human trafficking does as well. As horrific, traumatizing, and brutal as human trafficking is, the human trafficking industry is estimated to generate around $150 billion annually, which allows for the people who run human trafficking organizations to greatly profit and therefore encourages them to continue their businesses. One major aspect of human trafficking is sex trafficking. While sex trafficking is inhumane and severely cruel, it is profitable and therefore a thriving business. A net profit margin of over 70% makes sex trafficking one of the most profitable businesses in the world. It is becoming increasingly easy and inexpensive to procure, move, and exploit vulnerable girls. The thriving economics of the human trafficking industry make the ability to traffic people easier for the criminals involved, yet there are some ways to help end human trafficking. There are many organizations that are currently in place in order to help combat the problem of human trafficking. One organization that is currently fighting against the issue is the United Nations Global Initiative to Fight Human Trafficking. This program was launched in 2007 and is still today making many attempts and using all possible resources to terminate human trafficking throughout the world. One major way to combat human trafficking is to prosecute the traffickers. Being the root of the problem, it is necessary that the traffickers are arrested and brought to justice to prevent human trafficking. An organization by the name of UNODC has provided such training to police, border guards, NGO staff, prosecutors, and judges in several countries so they can correctly identify and convict traffickers. This issue is one that I am very sensitive to and feel vulnerable towards simply because I am a girl. Being a girl makes me, as well as all females, victims to degrading issues such as human trafficking. By researching this topic, I am not surprised by the information so much as more nervous and cautious as to who I can trust and what I can do and how I can act in public. I feel as though human trafficking is a problem that cannot be solved in one way. While all of the solutions and ideas that contribute to the termination of human trafficking are useful and necessary, ending human trafficking will be and is an extremely challenging, difficult task. Although not impossible, there needs to be many steps taken in the future to end this horrible business.